me and a buddy were like, I was pastoring, he was a CFO, and he was like, I don't think I can be a CFO forever. And I was like, I don't think I can just be a pastor. We started offshoring our idea to Bangladesh. This was in 2006, 7, before anybody was really doing this. Housing market's crashing, and we're going to go start a company to help mobilize companies to give back money and time.
What is up, Growth House family? This is your host, Jesse Ray. I'm here with my friend, Josh Hotsenpiller. Josh, how are you, man?
Man, so good. Good to see your face and your big smile, man. Loved your energy and great to see you, brother.
Yes, so we just had a call last week. We just kind of caught up. I reached out to you because I keep seeing every single time I'm on Instagram, I'm like, what's the CEO life like? It's here in Arizona. You got it in San Diego. But before we talk about that and My5 and everything that you got going on right now, Josh, like, what's life look like right now? Family, kids, businesses. What is life right now look like? And then we'll take a step back and then we'll kind of tell the story about how you came up.
Yeah, man, I'm 44. I've got 2 boys. In fact, my oldest just had his first day of high school today. So I've got all the feels of how in the world did we get here so fast? And probably no matter who's listening to this, wherever you are in life, you can probably relate to that feeling of how did I get here so fast? Maybe that's to the place you want to be. Maybe that's to the place you don't want to be. But time has a way of hurrying itself along. So 2 boys. I'm in San Diego primarily. We split our time between here and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And man, it's my world is one of I've started everything from faith communities to film agencies to software companies to virtual software companies. I've bootstrapped. I've raised tens of millions of dollars. I've done TEDx's. I'm a U.S. State Department ambassador on entrepreneurship. I mean, my life has been every which way, and I've got stories and successes and wounds to tell about it.
Well, we're going to share both of those. Let's hear some successes, but I think the audience and just people in general have a real need and want for authenticity. And I feel like in an entrepreneur community, just in general, it's like everyone's on Instagram, all these influencers, everyone's super successful, and all they share are their successes. And so I think it's gonna be fun just kind of taking a deep dive into your kind of story, but then also talking about My5, where a lot of this kind of ties in. So Josh, first question is San Diego the best city in the US?
So funny that you say that. The other day I was talking to my wife and I said, let's chat GPT. What is the number one city for climate and opportunity? Those 2 words, climate and opportunity. So type it into ChatGPT and San Diego is the number one. So if you're looking for the city that has the number one climate and the number one opportunity available to you, look no further than right here in San Diego.
There we go. Recruited by Josh right there.
There you go. There you go.
So let's start with the backstory. College, was that a thing? What happened after college? And kind of walk me through those early stages of like, what was Josh like as he's, growing up, starting along this entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, man. So I don't know if we got a chance to talk about this last time, but so I grew up son of a preacher man. Did I tell you that?
Yes. Yeah. PK kid.
Yeah. So I grew up the son of a preacher kid. And, that was the world that I knew and I understood. And so I actually went to divinity school in New York City and got my divinity degree. And my dad was pastoring a pretty large church in North Jersey. And he said, man, why don't you come work at my church? And I said, this was before entrepreneurship was a thing. I mean, 20 years ago, it was like major outlier to do something like this. So I said, man, Dad, did you ever see the movie Good Will Hunting?
Oh, that's a classic, but I haven't seen it. I'm terrible with movies.
Okay. So at the very end of it, he had this big job opportunity. He said, I got to go see about a girl. And I think that's been a notion of my life, dude. Like, I got to go see about a girl. I got to go see about an opportunity. I got to go see about the unknown. And I ended up not taking the job with him at his large church. And I raised $100,000 when I was 23 years old and moved 3,000 miles with my wife, who I'd been married to for a week, and started a church in my apartment. And so I was 23, moved to San Diego. I had some wedding money in my pocket, and we started a church in the apartment. And that was an incredible experience for a 23-year-old. You can imagine. I mean, a 23-year-old being a pastor, that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh, man. Yeah, I feel like 23, I was still trying to like figure out who I was. I feel like
Mhm.
it takes a while after college. You go to college. I mean, you were at a school where it was
Yep,
what, religious, biblically based.
yep,
I was
sure,
in a
sure.
Christian college, so it wasn't
Okay.
like I was doing too many crazy things, wilding out.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the
yeah.
same time, like you're still trying to figure out who you are at that age, and you're starting a church and being a pastor at 23. Walk me through some of
And
those challenges.
yeah, and you know what, Jesse? It's funny, like we look at people and there's this we always assume, right? We either assume too much good or too much bad. We rarely assume an accurate view of the individual. Dude, I was no different than you, man. I was lost with my identity. I didn't know who I was. I don't know how I got in this situation. I remember waking up one day and being like, how in the world did I end up uh, pastoring a church at 23 years? I don't know who I am. I don't know what marriage looks like. I don't know what success looks like. And to be honest with you, dude, it's really, I don't know that you ever fully get done maturing into understanding that, because every season is a little bit different working definition. But it was tough, dude. I was scared. We sent out 30,000 invitations for our first service, and one person showed up. One. And I was like, dude, I was so scared. I was a newly, married man. I had to provide for my family. And I just remember going, I am hosed. And Jesse, I'll tell you what, man, I went door to door and started knocking on doors and introducing myself to people and said, hey, I'm a new pastor in town. And man, it was a grind. It was a drive. But one by one, we met people. We loved them well. And we grew the church up to about 1,000 people before I ended up exiting that and starting my first software company.
So what was that exit like? You're going from a pastor, everyone's looking up to you, you're like, the leader, and then you're like, "Hey guys, I'm actually going to start a business." What was that like
Yeah,
perception, and also like how was that transition? That seems like a big
yeah.
one.
So yeah, it was both. It was kind of like what you said a minute ago, like you didn't know yourself. And as I started to get more and more into the pastorate, I realized like, man, I got a heart for business and people in the marketplace. And so I dabbled in both for about 2 years. And bro, we had signed some big contracts, and I would be like in Visa, in like a conference room in Visa, writing sermons because I had to fly back, like, and I had to preach, I'd have notes in. And so I'm like doing that kind of stuff. And I think our church saw it coming because I would tell stories, on Sunday, like, oh man, I was like, we closed GoPro. We'd be talking about that. And then I stayed on teaching every other week for about another year while I was starting my companies. So that was kind of the transition. And then ultimately, we realized like the church wanted to grow, wanted to do more things. And so we brought in a new guy. But I'll tell you one thing, that everything I've ever done, including I just started My5 today, we announced, as a matter of fact, which is fun for me. Dude, the fear never changes. It never changes. I don't care how much money you got in the bank account, how much success you've had in the past. Dude, I'll tell you a cool story. Last night, I texted two of my dear friends, the head of global partnerships at the U.S. State Department, and the head of partnerships for the United Nations. Are good buddies of mine. And I texted them both last night and said, I'm starting this tomorrow. And they both were like, I want to talk next week. I miss, all your friends in the world, even in high places, can say, I love you. I believe in you. But what we all know who listens to this, man, is deep down in our gut, we're like, man, do I believe in me? Can I do this again? Can I solve another riddle? And every stage of my life, dude, whether it's starting a church, leaving that to go to software, leaving different software companies, now starting a company for executive and leader well-being. Ah, it's scary. And it's the unknown. And you never outgrow it, dude.
That's such a good thing to remember, because I feel like a lot of people, once they see someone successful with, financially, I feel like a lot of people are just focused on that, which we'll dive into. Everyone's just like business and financial success. That is
Yeah.
success. But they see people in that and they're like, oh, they don't have any fear. They master that. But I'm so glad that you shared that and just, authentic about that. I guess, Josh, I want to kind of just bridge the gap between My5 and that beginning journey. So you started
Yeah.
what software company to start? And then what was that transition to go from software to then to where you're at now?
Dude, I got so many stories, man. And I'll try
We
to
could
make them
dive in,
succinct.
man.
Yeah, because every one of them has been a wild adventure. So, Profits for Purpose, me and a buddy were like, I was pastoring, he was a CFO, and he was like, I don't think I can be a CFO forever. And I was like, I don't think I can just be a pastor. We started offshoring our idea to Bangladesh. This was in 2006, 7, before anybody was really doing this. Housing markets crashing. and we're going to go start a company to help mobilize companies to give back money and time. So first company, we're offshoring in the corporate social responsibility, helping companies give back. That company gets going. Dude, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm like, man, I want to do some other stuff. So great story. I start an app helping men develop their lives. A big radio station finds the app and says, would you build this for us? True story. I thought to myself, man, I could sell this to them for like 50 grand, you know, and I could have enough down payment to buy my first home. This is where my brain was. So I go up and I meet with their CEO, and I go, they were looking at a Microsoft product, and I sat down. And I go, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal, dude. This is how real this was. I didn't even have a company. I had an app that was helping men develop into better men. They saw the app and said, we want an app like this. And they're about to hire a Microsoft company. And I said, why don't you fire them and hire me, and I'll do it, and I'll make you a deal. Whatever you budgeted for that Microsoft thing, I'll do it for less. Just tell me what you budget. I promise you I'll come in less. So I'm like, man, if they say like 75,000, I'll do 50. A down payment on my house, bada boom. And he said, well, we budgeted 250,000. So I said, I'll do it for 220. And he goes, deal. Dude, I wasn't even in my car when I hired the buddy that was developing. I said, quit your job at Viacom. I called another guy who was doing software sales. I said, quit your job at Active. We're going to start a company. They're like, what's it called? And I said, I don't know yet. All I know is I got 220 grand. So I'm flying back and I get an email from the CEO and he goes, hey, what's the name of your company? I need to write up a contract. I didn't have a company, dude. So I came up with the name CrowdHub on the flight, and it got the now was taken. So it's CrowdHub apps, bought it, sent it, like did it all. Like by the time I landed, sent him the information, and we launched our first company, that company. So now I'm running this one company, start my next company. That's when I transitioned out of the church. And then from there, dude, I started a film agency called Wisdom Capture, which is a great brand that helps capture the wisdom of leaders in major organizations. Then, quick story to kind of tell you how I got to where I'm at now. If I'm not speaking too fast and we're doing okay here, um, my life is great, bro. I get invited to go do a TEDx in DC at Tyson's Corner, which is one of the top ones. I rip a TEDx on accessing the wisdom of others. The head of Speakers Bureau for the U.S. State Department's in the audience. He's like, come be an ambassador on entrepreneurship. I'm leading CrowdHub, Wisdom Capture, did my TEDx, doing some consulting. I'm on top of the world. COVID hits. My businesses don't suffer because I'm doing film and tech, which people need. And then my life changed because one of our company, or HP, said, can you do virtual? And then another company said, can you do virtual? And I was like, dude, let's freaking party. Let's start another company and do virtual tech because we don't know where the world's going. Really long story short, a phenomenal wild story. Through a relationship, I got connected to the co-founder of Insight Partners, which is the largest software-only VC in the world, 20 billion under management. I got connected to their co-founder. And within 90 days, we did $1 million in bookings and raised $3.5 million from him and another guy. Finished our Series A within the first 14 or 12 months. We did $14 million, hired 100 people. And on Father's Day 2021, I had a massive panic attack. My blood pressure went to 187, left side of my body went numb, thought I was dying. And everything was so out of control, Jesse. Like my old companies I'm trying to keep them up. This company's going bananas, dude. We're hosting virtual events for World Health Organization, Gates Foundation, the NBA. Software is failing, employees are suing, new employees are being hired. I mean, and I just, one day, this is where my life really changes, where it's so pivotal. I was at CVS and I was just trying to survive, dude. Like my little boys were at home. I'm trying to be a good dad. And I went and I got on beta blockers to stop the adrenaline from pumping through my body and get my blood pressure down. And I was at CVS with prescription beta blockers, a bottle of whiskey and Tylenol PM. And I'm like, how in the hell did I go from 18 months ago, like having such joy, to this? And I'm too deep in now, dude. I've got millions of dollars of tens of millions of dollars of bookings, tens of millions of dollars of money raised, well over 100 employees. And I had to take steps back to fix me. And it wasn't a money thing, dude. Like we've had some success. I mean, we have our second lake house home and two boats and debt free and an old classic car. And country club membership. I mean, if you look at my life, you're like, dude, this dude did it. Like he's got the lake house and the ski boat and the pontoon boat. And it's all paid for. And the country club membership and the old 1959 MGA that's dialed. I mean, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're not healthy. And that's where I found myself. And I realized that I had to make major changes in my life if I wanted to be a healthy dude. And ultimately, that's what I wanted. So,
Absolutely. So, what was the main thing that was going on? Was it stress that was like, pushing into other areas of life where you were getting unhealthy? What was the main thing that was like, man, looking back, I wish I would have done this a little differently, obviously, because you never want to get to that level
yeah.
of, dependency.
Yeah. I talk to people about this when your challenges or opportunity become heavier than your infrastructure, you collapse. And you don't really know when that's going to happen or when that is. Like for me, the challenges and the opportunity that were all on top of my shoulders. That's why I created My5, and this is where I would just answer the question. My identity was a whack. Like who am I really? My health was took a back seat. My friendship circles, like I was just I didn't have those like rhythms. Work, I wasn't finding it, like my joy and my purpose was why the hell am I even here? And when those things get out of whack, dude, like when we're like, man, my identity is growing this business. My purpose is money. When all these things happen, don't be surprised if you do either fail and collapse or succeed and collapse, because ultimately those aren't sustainable truths. Like you are not your business, and if you are, then every time it's good, you're amazing. Every time it's bad, you're a loser. That's not sustainable. Your purpose is not money, because if it is, then when it's good, you're on purpose. When it's bad, you're off purpose, and that's not purpose. And so, really understanding that, like, if you don't find who you are and you don't live a healthy rhythm lifestyle, your challenge might be failure, your challenge might be success, but it'll crush you, one or the other.
In terms of business success, because this is an interesting question, because I think a lot of people become super successful and they say, Jesse, it was a crazy journey. I was working these long hours. I was way out of balance. I didn't have a lot of relationships that I wish I would have kept. But then I ask them, like, would you be able to achieve that amount of success in that amount of time if you were balanced and you did have all these things online? They're like, absolutely not. And then I say, would you do it over differently? And like 80% of people actually say no, because I needed to get there. And then 20%
Yeah.
like, yeah, of course, because I would have sacrificed all that money and all that half of the success if I actually was in alignment and I knew who I was and I kept those important relationships around me. So I just kind of want us to riff on this, because I think it's kind of the interesting concept where I feel like some people are like, no, you have to go through a lot of pain and probably suffering that most people don't want to go to achieve some sort of level of success. So walk me through what that looks like if you were to do it differently.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you just said is true and false. Because it's true because there's evidence that somebody went through it and had success. It's false because nobody did it. These folks didn't, so you don't know. You don't know. Like, and I'll say this, like, I most of the stress we put ourselves under isn't why we were successful. That's not why you were successful, because you put yourself under that stress. You could have been successful without having the extra burden of identity stress, of purpose stress, of mission stress. And I would just say this, like, um, everybody's got to find their own path. And if somebody out there is like, I don't care about having a healthy identity, I don't care about friendships, I don't care about purpose, I don't care about meaning. Like I am literally a robot of a money making person, and there's just no more depth in me or meaning than me in that. Then hey, for sure, for sure. What are you going to argue with that? I mean, it's like, okay. I think that's less and less the norm. I think in a progressive society and progressive entrepreneurial world, I think people are going, you know what? Like, dude, because you don't define success, you're always looking for it, because it's not defined. It's like anything that's not defined. If it's not defined, you're trying to find the answer. So I would just say to folks too, like, here's the thing. You need to define what success is. And it can't be money, because you're always going to want more. It can't be sex because you're always going to want more. It can't be power because you're always going to want to be more. That's why they call these things, these levers. I think it's got to be deeper than that. I mean, I think stuff like you've talked about, like maybe success for you is financially being able to experience the most amazing things this world has to offer. And I don't know what it is for you. I'm just making that up, but it's like, hey, I want to be able to financially experience it. Like for me, it's like, man, I want to be in a financial place where I'm present to my family, but also have the freedom to bring them all over the world and do amazing things. And so there's some give and take there for sure. Um, do I think that those people would have been that successful if they didn't hurt themselves? I don't know, because they didn't try to do it without hurting themselves. Either the window would have passed, they would have failed. Maybe they would have had success 18 months later. It would have taken 18 months longer. Well, who knows? I think it's the wrong question though. Because if the answer is, would you have been as financially successful? If that's what we're trying to answer, I still think we're asking the wrong question. It's really, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? You know, like forget all that. That happened, whatever. Who do you want to be today? And when I talk to entrepreneurs and leaders, like, who do you want to be? Well, I want to be filthy rich at any cost. I don't care if it burdens out my family, my relationships, my health. That's who I want to be. Cool. I mean, that world's offered to you. I want to love my life. I want to bring value to the world. I want to sell, I don't care if it's belt buckles, man. I want to sell the most belt buckles that make people feel like when they put that on, they walk into a room and bang. Like, that's what I want to do. Awesome. Like, do you want to destroy your life over that? Like, I
So
don't, go ahead.
I was going to say, so walk me through the foundation of My5. And if someone was starting off and they're, in the midst of building their business, or they're
Yeah.
already, actually start with the people that are, because that's a lot of my audience. They're in
Yeah.
the midst of like transitioning, most of them corporate America, being like, I'm
Yep.
tired of this rat
Yep.
race. I want to control my
Yep.
own destiny with my own job. So they are just starting out with this business. What advice would you give them? And how does that tie into My5? Because I think it does a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing we talk about in My5, and it's this study that Harvard Business Review talks about, and it's called enmeshment. It's when what you do and who you are so jammed together, you can't tell where one starts and one ends. So the first thing we talk about is identity. So if you're leaving corporate to go to, solopreneur or entrepreneur or whatever it is, man, it starts with, who does Jesse want to be? Who is Jesse to the world? Like, that's the starting point. And so I'm thinking of somebody that's like, man, I'm in corporate, and like I'm trying to, I don't know what somebody that does. Maybe they want to go into Airbnb rentals. I don't know. And it's like, what do you want? Why? Like, what's the identity factor in that? Well, you're doing it for a reason. You're leaving this for a reason. Why? Well, I want to what? I want to be rich. Okay, that's the identity you want, because there's a whole world that gets behind that. No, no, no. It's actually that I want more availability to my family. What does that look like? I want more flexibility in my time. Why? Like, what would you do at that time? Like, what is the purpose of the space you're creating so that you can fill that purpose with an identity? You know, I want to take my son to soccer, pick him up from football. I want to have deep, meaningful conversations. I don't want to be at the office all day long. I want to be my identity is, I want to be part of my identity is I want to be an incredible dad. So I would just say the first thing is this, man, like, who do you want to be to the world? Not what do you want to achieve in the world? Think about the difference of that. Who do you want to be in the world? Not what do you want to achieve in the world? We always start with what we want to achieve in the world, not who we want to be in the world. And what will happen is, if we actually start with who I want to be in the world, it may look a little different than what I want to achieve in the world. You know what I mean? So then the second thing is, that's identity. That's just in a nutshell. The second thing is your health. Okay, you're not going to thrive if you don't have holistic health. So we talk a lot about holistic health and say, I'm not going to get into the right workout for you and the right eating patterns for you, but I do want to give you frameworks to think about and say, if I want to be this to the world, what does a healthy version of that look like? What does a healthy version of that look like? And so we talk about that and like focusing on your holistic health, everything from, yeah, of course, your physical world to your emotional world, to your environmental world, to your spiritual world. What does that look like to be a healthy individual? Because this is who I want to be in the world. And the third thing I love talking about this one is that I believe in a 24-hour friendship circle. And I could spend all day on this, but it's trends on social, like a 3 a.m. friend. right? You know what those are, 3 a.m. friend, the guy that, you call at 3 a.m. and they just show up with a shovel and they don't ask questions and they're going to just bury whatever body, you just made a mess of. Well, I talk about 24-hour friendship cycle. You need a 7 a.m. friend. You need a friend that every morning is going to wake you up in the morning and go, dude, you got this. I just told my wife a little bit ago, because like I told you, the fear doesn't go away. And I told her, I said, I want you in the next probably 3 to 4 months, I'm going to be scared to death to start again. And every time I do, I want you just to look at me and say, you wanted this. You wanted this. And like, I need you to remind me and inspire me. 7 a.m. friend, 12 p.m. friend. Hey man, I'm trying to work out a business problem. Right now, I got a problem with an employee. I got a problem with a partner. I got a problem with a contract. Can I workshop this with you? I want to send this email. One of my best friends will send each other emails back and forth all the time on, hey, will you read this and just make sure I'm not coming off snippy or I didn't miss anything. You're smart. You're business. So will you workshop this 12 p.m. friend? 4 to 5 p.m. friend, man, they don't give a crap about your job. They don't want to hear about it. They want to have a beer and a mountain bike, or they want to have a good time. Like, this is your place just to not be on. Who's your friend that you're like, dude, you know what I love about him, man? Like, he's like my softball buddy. Like he's not jamming me on my work. He's not asking me like how successful I am. He just wants to get on the mountain bike. He wants to throw the ball. He's just a homie. So then there's your 8 p.m. friend. This is your like, man, I'm in trouble. Like with business, I need to forecast and to think. I need to dream. Like I need to process. I need a little bit of extra time. Hey, dude, can I call you tonight? I want to workshop an idea with you. I'm thinking about pivoting my business. It's that processor. That's your fourth one. And then your fifth one is your 3 a.m. friend. You're just going to bury bodies. But if you ask people, like, who's that circle in your life that when you're going through anything, they're waking you up going like, Jesse, you're the man, dude. Love what you're doing. Like, so proud of you. You're a game changer, man. I've got several in my life. The guy that you call and go, dude, I'm thinking about like this, buying this house. I'm thinking about, doing this next thing. What am I not thinking about? What would you think with me? Who's the person who's just like, dude, I just want to go visit Rio and not stress. Who's the one that you're like, man, I got this big idea and it's beyond me. It's beyond the scale I've learned. I need somebody who's a little further than me. It's your mentor advisor. And then just the guy that's like, dude, I don't know, man. Like I never graduated high school, but I'll bury somebody for you. Like I'm joking with that, but so I talk a lot about what does it look like to build your holistic friendship circle. And then we look at work and like, what does it mean to actually labor? So there's a saying in the Bible that I love, and not everybody shares the same belief, but you can appreciate this: labor under the Lord, or under under like a meaning. And like, what does it mean to work like undo something beautiful? This is different than your purpose, because your purpose could very well live in and outside of your work. You'll see that a lot where people are like, man, I'm a executive of a company and I love doing it and it fits kind of who I am, but it really allows me to do my purpose. A good friend of mine is a CEO of a Fortune 100 company, and he doesn't love the industry that he's in, but it fits his gifting and he enjoys the challenge, but it really sets him up to do a lot of really purposeful work. And so there's a balance there. And so you look at these things and you go, what would it look like if I actually took control of my life? I'm launching an app next, probably first week in October, called My5, where you spend the first 5 minutes of the day reading, remembering, and renewing your mind in these 5 areas. And so to me, it's like, I didn't have any of this, dude, ever. It was like all of a sudden I'd see an opportunity, I'd take it, I'd get it over my head, I'd try to dig out. Never did I go, dude, who do you want to be in the world? Are you taking care of your holistic health while you're taking these risks? Do you have a circle around you that's supporting you? The work that you're doing, does it fit who you are? Like I was always got stressed out being a software CEO, dude, because I'm not a tech founder. Like I could never fix problems, you know? And so there's always, anyway, I could go on and on, but you start to build these frameworks, go, what would it look like to live in rhythm in these 5 things?
So good. There's so many things we can dive into there. I want to like touch on relationships because, Growth House, our motto is you become who you surround yourself with, which is kind of based off of the quote that's very popular. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which I'm sure you know Harvard did a study and actually proved that your success is dictated 95% on your friendship or what they call a reference group.
Yep.
So friendships, relationships are super important. And so I guess for you, who were those people around you? Was it like a coach? Was it a mentor? Was it a business friend? But I know you have all different types. Like you said, you
Yeah.
have those 4 to 5 where let's just grab happy hour. Let's just have fun. Let's
Yeah.
not think about work. But as far as like a business sense, how did you make that friendship circle so you knew that you were going to be an average of one of those 5 people?
Yeah. So, mentorship has always been really important to me, and I've pursued it. And you know what's interesting? When I was leading my last companies, I'd always tell my employees, I want you to have one or two mentors outside of this office, and you have permission to leave anytime and grab coffee with them. You have permission to reimburse a coffee, lunch, whatever. Uh, you know how many of those people got mentors? Zero. You know, and I would ask them also. Well, and I was going to give the answer. I'm glad you asked that. I always went for the ask on the big mentors. Like I asked, and I took opportunities. And I remember one day I was on a train from San Diego to LA, and my business partner looked at this guy next to us and said, "I feel like I know you from somewhere." Where they started talking, he was an executive, like psychologist. Well, him and I ended up hitting it off, and he was telling me, "Oh, there's this guy I think you'd like. He's the former global CEO of Burger King." And I just decided right then and there, that's gonna be my next mentor. And I don't care what it's gonna take. And I just started pursuing the heck out of this guy. And he ended up giving me more wisdom than I could ever imagine. When I had opportunities, dude, when I got a chance to meet the head of the partnerships at the UN, I went all in on relationship. And then he introduced me to the head of State Department, all in on relationship. So I think for me, number one, I would just say this: like anything in life, like you're not going to get it if you don't shoot for it. But I don't know why it is. I don't know if people think they don't have time, they're not worthy, they're not going to get an ROI. Um, I don't know which one of those they are. All I would say is this: is like the more ask as high up the chain as you can get. You know, who be really good with rejection. Who cares? And here's the truth too: if you ask somebody to invest in you and you're sincere about it and they say no, it's their loss. It's their loss. And it is because if somebody's hungry and wants to get invested in and somebody says no, go to the next. But man, I've always just fought for mentorship and opened huge doors.
You I want to touch on this because it's something a lot of my friends and I talk about recently. And you said something about like a rejection from, let's say, a mentor.
Sure.
Before I ask the question, what fueled you early on, and has it changed? Or are you still fueled and like by that same, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a,
Yeah, I some of the things that fuel me, I don't like still. And I want to, I'm trying, I'm aware of it. There's this somewhere between insecurity and arrogance, somewhere right in between there, because it's both. I promise everybody listens. I promise you it's both. It's not just, you're not just arrogant, you're insecure. And it's somewhere right in between there says, I should be achieving X. I should be achieving X, whatever that is. It's different for everybody else. And there's two reasons why you believe that. One is because you're confident, arrogant, and you know that you're gifted and talented and you're not an average bear and you can go get this. And the other part is because you're incredibly insecure and not sure if it's true. And these things drive you to go, what drives me is I should be accomplishing X. And I hate that because that's garbage. That just means an identity isn't an achievement and not a purpose. And I hate that because there's this thing in all of us, and I have not outgrown it yet. I'm still working on it and aware of it. And I'm like, Josh, like, you cannot be driven to try to prove again that you can do something. You got to be driven by a purpose. And I'm telling you, Jesse, when you can flip to driven by purpose, like that's what excites me about My5. I'm like, what if I was waking up every day being like, I'm living on purpose to help leaders get healthy? help leaders live vulnerable, healthy, incredible lives, then guess what? All of a sudden, your success isn't money, it's not notoriety, it's transformation. And if you're leaving the marketplace, and I don't know what a lot of your community is, but if it's real estate, is it real estate? Is it, I mean, I don't know. Is that what most
A
people are
lot
leaving?
of it right now is real estate, some startup founders.
Yeah. So if it's like I'm leaving the corporate to do that, why? It's not just money. Money in your mind is a means to something. It's a means to something. And it might be like, man, I want to be more present. I want more experiences. That's a good, that's a live on that purpose, and let that purpose drive you. Like, man, if I work hard at this, I can fulfill a purpose. But when your identity is all jacked up and I'm only valuable if I'm wealthy, and I'll do it at any cost, then your health suffers. Certainly your friendships suffer. Then all of a sudden you find yourself doing shit you should never be doing. And you know it deep down. You're like, why am I doing this? Because I got to. Because my identity got all messed up. Because my purpose was never established.
I love that phrase, driven by purpose, because I feel like you just move with a different energy and you be way more magnetic to people. Like, oh my gosh, this guy is on a mission, and I don't know what he's doing, but I'm attracted to it. I just feel like I just get like bouncy, like good positive energy when I think of driven by purpose. I guess, Josh, I want to ask you. You said you still are trying to make that switch. What do you think is going to help you make that switch where you don't have? Because I'm the same way. Like I don't know. Maybe we just watched too many of those Michael Jordan where I took this personal and now I want to like mama mentality and I want to get into Tim Grover talks about all the time, like get into that dark energy and use that to fuel you. It's like, okay, maybe it needs to be there at some point in my life, but if I
Why can't
live off of
bright
that,
energy? Why can't bright energy fuel you? Why can't you get into that bright space and be fueled? So here's where I'm transitioning. Um, I wake up in the morning and I go, I'm used to making X amount of dollars. And that's what I'm used to seeing come in every month because I'm doing this software company, I'm doing this consulting thing, and all of a sudden I sell the company, and instead of going with the company that bought it, so I could keep my money flowing like that, I looked at my world and I'm like, I don't need to do that. Maybe instead I'll flip the pattern, invest in myself, go do the next thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, there's this voice in my head that's like, yo, man, you're used to making hundreds of thousands of dollars more than this every month, and you're like, and you're like, wait a minute, why'd you get up today? Did you get up today to make a bunch of money, or did you get up today to drive a purpose forward and change lives? Because here's the thing, dude, when you provide value in the world to other people, business models follow, business opportunities follow, they just do. And so for me, where and I want to be as honest as I can, because so dude, I was leading a mastermind up at my house in Idaho, and I brought all the guys out on my pontoon boat in the middle of the lake, and we were going around talking. And I said, I'm afraid to be a failure. And pardon my language. And one of the guys was like, "Dude, fuck you." And I was like, "Okay, I'm leading this thing, like like what?" And he goes, "I'm sitting out on your lake house on your boat, and you're telling me you're not a success. How do you think that makes me feel? You're afraid to fail when we're sitting here in your lake house on your boat when everything's paid for and covered, and like you need to get your head right, dude." This was like a young kid, you know? And he was right. And it's like, man, like, so I'm telling you, I'm trying to be honest with you and the listeners because this is how we grow. Is it's like, man, I remember in that moment I started crying. Like I started weeping, and I was like, dude, like, thank you. I received that. And I'm gonna change that. And this was before My5. This is when I was selling the company, and so like tomorrow, today, 100 times today when I'm scared, 100 times today when I have self doubt, I'm gonna be like, Josh, remember why you're doing this? Because you know that there's an entire generation and people group of leaders and entrepreneurs that are listening to people saying, just get into that dark energy, just take it personal, just get angry, just get cold, get isolated. And you know where that leads? You get into that dark energy, it leads to dark places. You get into that light energy, and it's gonna introduce light places.
So good. I appreciate you just being like transparent and authentic with that story, because I think a lot of people would shy away from that. And I think it's just is why do you think that so much is pushed towards that dark energy, especially, lately?
So there was a guy that I was doing some business with that was living big, living real big, big houses, big cars. Um, and I mean, I was like, dude, that dude's balling. I mean, Lambos, $6 million home, you name it. And came to find out he was broke. And I remember one day I was talking to him about it, and I said, "Do you know what it's like to be financially free?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "That's why you kept buying more stuff, because the being financially free was so impossible to you, and you couldn't even imagine the freedom in it, that you decided, I'll go get as dark financially as I can, because that'll bring me joy." And here's my where I'm trying to get to this. I think people say go to that dark place because they've never been in the light. They've never been free. They don't even know how to describe that to you, dude. They don't even know how to tell you to get there. Only thing they know how to do is tell you to get darker. And why you're going to be happy when you do it is because you're going to have money, and you're going to be on some yacht. I just saw a thing the other day of Michael Jordan's kid was just caught, hitting cocaine somewhere off the beach or whatever, and you sit there and you're like, man, here's a kid that has all the money and access he wants in the world, and he's broken and isolated and alone, bumping coke and off some coast, lonely as hell. Jesse, I live in a network of some of the nicest country clubs in all the country and world. Like, right, if you could see my backyard, I mean, you can see it. Not everybody can, but like that's like my backyard, and all inside these is I'm a part of the Crosbys or Santa Luz, the Grand, Del Mar Country, all of them. I got friends at all of them. I golf. I haven't golfed in a municipal golf course, and I don't know when. And every time I go to those courses, do you know what I find? Addicts, dudes that are cheating on their wives, dudes that I mean, tomorrow night I'm going to, or tonight I'm heading to Santa Luz, and two guys I know that aren't where they want to be, just in case somehow this makes the light of day. But you don't know what you don't know because you haven't lived it, dude. But when you live it, you're gonna go, whoa, the yacht, the booze, the chicks, the dudes, whatever you're looking for. Oh man, that wasn't as full as I thought. And now, conversely, I'll be honest with you, having my life and having some of the opportunities and things I did, like having my house paid for, my lake house paid for, my boats paid for, everything, and having access to all that is freaking awesome. So there's nothing wrong. Don't mishear me. Dude, I love having a wakeboarding boat, a pontoon boat, a sick 4,500 square foot house in Coeur d'Alene. I love having a beautiful home here in San Diego overlooking the mountains. And you know what, dude? It's freaking awesome. But to live your life in pursuant of that and making that your identity, you won't ever stop, because I need a bigger house, because I need a bigger boat, because so don't mishear me, man. I love things. And I don't want to act like I'm some like weirdo that like is lying to people. I love stuff. um, but it's paid for. And I could have bigger boats and have loans and bigger houses and have financial over. I could have all that. And you'd go, God, I'm so unhappy. I'm so miserable. And you keep going to the dark space because you never knew what it was like to live in the light.
So you think, because I think a lot of people feel like I got to go touch the stove to make sure that it actually is hot, right? And so many people are driven by these material things. And some people will have to go there and be like, and I have friends like this, like you just mentioned, man, they buy the huge houses and they're like,
Yep.
wait, no one wants to come hang out with me. I have no friends. I thought this is going to be my solution to all my problems. This is why I worked 50 years to have this crazy house. So I totally hear what you're saying, and I totally can relate, through friendships that I have, and even having glimpses of this type of stuff. I guess, like, does it start with that identity? If people really understand the identity and are driven by the purpose, they won't feel that need to go experience and have that be a main driver of
I would
success to
say
get those?
I would say without identity and purpose, you
Yeah.
don't have any choice but to go touch the stove.
That's the default setting is
There's
what
no option.
success.
There's no option.
That's
I
good.
mean, if there's only one path, I got to take it, right? So I would just say, like, you don't even know, like, not like those people that are like, would you have done that? Like, if you said to me, would you do everything you did to get to where you got to and go through all you went through? I mean, would I do it again? No. And I don't think for 1 second that means I wouldn't have been successful. I just would have done it different. I would have been healthy going through it. I would have had boundaries. I would have had perspective, and I'd probably be in the exact same situation. Um, but I would just say, like, why don't you start with who you want to be in the world, not what you want to get from the world, and just start there and see what the answer is, and then see where purpose and identity start to shape you, because then you'll start to go, wait a minute, this is the kind of work I want to do. This is the kind of way I want to take care of myself. These are the kind of people I want to be attracted to. Look, dude, if the only thing you want to do is make as much money as you can, the sum of the five people you surround yourself with that you end up becoming like, well, are they good dads and moms? Are they healthy people? Do they have great relationships? Are they financially free? No, but they make a ton of money. Like, but again, it comes down to some of the people like listening, they probably already hung up right now if they're not into this, but like, it's like, I don't care about being a good dad. I don't care about being a good mom. I don't care about being a good friend, partner, spouse. I don't care about being present with my friend. I just don't care about that stuff. Oh, go touch a stove. And hell, you might not even feel burnt because you're dead already. but like, but you're gonna find when you get there, you're gonna go, this isn't nearly as much joy as I felt like. So
Josh, we talked about it when we had a call last week. Talk to me more about My5. And I think it was like a morning routine or something that you mentioned, almost like priming yourself to start the day. I want you to kind of dive into some of the things about My5 because I know, listening to this, like you said, the people who are not interested already tuned out, but the people who are listening right now are like, this is what I needed to hear because maybe I was going down that path. Maybe I thought that was the only way was to go touch the stove, was to go kill myself for 5 years while I'm
yeah.
building this startup or investing in my, real estate portfolio. But for those people that want to live more a holistic, healthy, happy life and not dive into that dark energy, what are some of the things that, My5 can help with?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing we're doing is launching 8-week accelerators, where you can come in and spend 8 weeks going through 75 different exercises to work through your health. And I guide you through 8 weeks of those. There's literally 75 different exercises across all five of these modules. So the first thing is, man, reset. Like, build a foundation, right? Right now, most people don't have a foundation. And so they're starting to build a house without a foundation. So get your foundation so that you have some of these answers. You're like, man, I know there's triggers, there's alarms that are going off, there's thoughts that are going, because now I've got a foundation. So start with an accelerator, an 8-week accelerator. Do that with us. When the app launches in October, download it. Start every day. Hit your 5-minute timer. It's broken up into 3 sections: read, remember, and renew. Those are the 3 sections we want you to go through. And then do that every day. And then continue to get involved in our movement, man. Like, we want to build healthy, happy, thriving people. That's the goal that we're after.
I love it. Such a good mission right there. Do you want to
I
touch
know it
real
is.
quick?
Get up for that. Yeah.
Real quick, do you want to touch on CEO life and just like, because I know there's lots of chapters and I know people are literally listening all around the country to this podcast.
Yeah, man, we're loving it, dude. And that's where this came out of, right? It's like we have 400 members across the country, and they're constantly going, I want to be healthier and happier. And that's the kind of people we're attracting. And so, yes, it's CEO Life, man. It's an amazing physical network of people all over the country that are like, dude, I want to gather once a month. I want to have fun. I want to have joy. These are the things I want to do. Check it out. It's awesome. We're live, fully launched in probably 14 cities. We're selling into 31. Great people. And you're going to find people on purpose that just have great hearts. It's awesome.
I love it. Josh, people are going to want to reach out to you, but here's the thing. People are going to want to reach out, but they know that no one reaches out and says, hey, can I pick your brain? If they do, send them to me and they're crossed out of our community. So we're
Oh,
all
fair enough.
about being we're all about being a go-giver community, right?
I love it.
So
I love
we
it.
want to provide some type of value to you, Josh. It could be something very simple. It could be like, hey, I'm looking for XYZ type of person for my business. We're raising money, whatever. What are maybe one or two things that someone could provide value to you before they reach out and ask you maybe a question or, to learn more?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think for me, I really do want to see people be happy and healthy. And so I would just say, help me get the word out because there's a lot of people out there that don't know where to turn. There's not those. I mean, I don't need to raise money. I don't. I got a good team around me. So I don't know what I would need outside of encouragement. You know, I always love encouragement. I'm a words of affirmation guy. So if you follow me on it, go follow me over at My5 app on Instagram. Just encourage me to keep going, encourage me to live on mission and purpose, and I can get a long way that way.
I love it. So the best way to reach out to you would be on the My5 Instagram.
Yeah, or hit the website. Hit me up on the website, LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn, My5 Instagram. It's My5 app. Find me on there. Yeah, I'd love to just build relationships. So, and help, man, get people healthy. Like, let's get on the mission of getting people healthy as they go start amazing ventures.
I love it. Josh, man, it was so fun talking to you last week and just like it feels like part two of just like our
I love it.
conversation. And I love that people get to actually listen and kind of hear behind the scene of what, people talk about. Cause I think a lot of people talk about X's and O's and strategic ways to raise capital or XYZ. But at the end of the day, like this is the stuff that really matters. This is the stuff
Yep,
that
I
like
love it.
changes your life. So Josh, man,
I
I
love it.
appreciate it. I know we're going to be in touch.
I love it, man. Great to see you, brother.